All right, well, hello everyone. Welcome again to today's webinar, and welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA. This is the first webinar of your orientation, and it's called Launching Your VISTA Service. We're really glad that you were able to join us today. Congratulations on your first day as a VISTA member. My name is Calvin Landrum, and I'm a training coordinator here at AmeriCorps VISTA.
And I'm Ann Oti. We'll be your hosts today from VISTA headquarters in D.C.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So today we hope that you will get a lot out of this webinar. We'd like you to be able to describe the mission of VISTA and outline its programming principles, show how individual VISTA assignments relate to the VISTA mission, describe what PSO Blend is and how we expect you to participate fully in it, and then enter into your VISTA service well-informed.
So there's some really great goals for our session, but before we get started with those, we first want to say welcome. Welcome to AmeriCorps VISTA. Now you're about to join a national movement with a very rich history. There's 70 VISTAs representing 22 states on this webinar alone. This month, 200 VISTAs will be starting service. And right now, there are more than 5,000 VISTAs currently serving in rural and urban areas in all 50 states and in several territories and tribal nations. Now, Volunteers in Service to America, or VISTA, has been supporting and at times leading the charge for social equity for more than 50 years. Our strength comes from the talent, motivation, and energy of our members, soon to be you. So I want to say thank you for stepping up to share your skills and passion to serve the community. It's an honor for me to welcome you on behalf of the VISTA program. I also hope that you feel the warmth and support of your fellow VISTAs. Throughout this orientation, and not just on this webinar, we'll help you make those connections with each other. So, as we're just now getting to know each other, let's take a look at a few milestones in VISTA's history that have led us to this very moment. In 1961, President Kennedy established the Peace Corps and rejuvenated from Roosevelt's New Deal the idea of a Corps of volunteers with a living allowance and training support. In 1963, President Kennedy, in an address to Congress, said, "The overseas success of our Peace Corps volunteers, most of them young men and women carrying skills and ideas to needy people, suggests the merit of a similar Corps serving our own community needs. As the idealism of our youth has served world peace, so can it serve the domestic tranquility."
And then, in 1964, President Johnson created the Office of Economic Opportunity, and within that office established, amongst others, Senior Corps, Job Corps, Head Start, and the true bearer of the legacy, VISTA. As the newspapers read back then, our first volunteers were assigned to the hollows of Appalachia, the slums of Hartford, Connecticut, and the camps of migrant farm workers in California. Johnson, whom you can see in this photo, said to those first VISTAs, which remains true today, "The initials of your organization spell VISTA. It is an appropriate name, for you will be opening up new vistas of hope for the poor, achievement for yourself, and greatness for your nation." Fast forward almost 30 years, and in 1993, VISTA joined AmeriCorps, which was created by President Bill Clinton, and today is part of the national service programs, including AmeriCorps State and National Grants, the Social Innovation Fund, AmeriCorps NCCC, FEMA Corps, and Senior Corps. In the 50-plus years of the VISTA program, some 200,000 VISTAs have served. So who are these alumni, you may be wondering? Well, myself, George R.R. Martin, the author of Game of Thrones, he served as a VISTA, Senator Jay Rockefeller of West Virginia, Ray Magliacci from Click and Clack of Car Talk, Jack Gertie, the CEO of Land O'Lakes, and Congresswoman Gwen Moore of Wisconsin, just to name a few. But if you're aiming to be famous because you served in VISTA, you might want to rethink that plan.
Well, as our history shows, Ann, VISTA has worked for over 50 years to help bring communities out of poverty. So if you believe that we have a responsibility to bring an end to poverty and are committed to working within communities, you've joined the right program. And based on your responses in the chat activity at the beginning of the session, it looks like your interests and motivations are well aligned with the VISTA program. Seeing your comments in the chat activity before the session began, it seems that many of you were attracted to VISTA because of this legacy and our poverty focus. What else did we see in there? It looks like we have people that say they want to step outside of their comfort zone and make a positive difference in the world, gain some valuable skills along the way.
There are some who wanted to contribute to the community, and when they heard about VISTA, they thought it was a great opportunity for them to apply their skills.
I really like this one from Alan. Alan Coffey, I know you're on there. He said he wanted to change direction after 32 years as a Baptist minister and still use some of the skills he acquired in that career. I'm sure you've got plenty of public speaking experience, lots of community organizing. There's a lot that goes into being a preacher, I bet.
Clark Ross said that he hopes to become a physician in a rural community and is doing VISTA to get more exposure to rural and low-income communities that I'm sure he'll be serving.
Very, very admirable. Let's see, someone says working towards joining the Peace Corps. They want to be of service to those without a voice. All really, really great answers. Thanks, guys, for responding to that. So let's take a look at, so why are you needed? So you're needed here because in each and every single one of your communities, a need has been identified, and they know that VISTA can help them solve those problems. So to get a sense of what the needs look like, we're going to read out some fast facts. More than 1 in 5 children in the U.S., or 22%, live below the poverty line. According to the Harris Interactive Study, that's the same amount of Americans that identify as vegetarians.
Among all children, 44% live in low-income families, about 32.6 million children, and that is the same amount of people who in 2015 visited Disney's Magic Kingdom and Epcot combined.
And 2 in 5 children don't know where their next meal is coming from. According to the National Restaurant Association, that's more than twice the amount of slices of pizza sold by Domino's on Super Bowl Sunday.
1 in 4 Native Americans and Alaska Natives are living in poverty. That's about 1.35 million people, and that is the same amount of doctors and graduate students in the United States.
So 30% of veterans ages 18 to 24 are unemployed, and about 50,000 veterans are homeless on any given night. So that number is coming down thanks to coordinated efforts and the efforts of some VISTA members just like you. That's almost 5 times the amount of Starbucks locations in the U.S.
Wow. And more than 1 in 100 adults in America are in jail or prison. And according to the National Federation of State High School Association, that is the same amount of high school students in the United States that play football, track and field, and volleyball combined. And just to put things in perspective, the average age of children with an incarcerated parent is about 8 years old.
Well, these are just a few statistics that give us a brief look at why what you're about to do as a VISTA member is so important. Even after more than 50 years of doing this type of work, the things that you're doing today are really going to make an impact in your community later on. So later on in this session, we'll show you some more of the impacts that your fellow VISTAs have had. But now let's take a deeper look into the VISTA program's mission and the principles that guide our work.
So we know that VISTA is committed to helping people, or helping to bring people out of poverty, and that as we just saw, there is definitely a need in our communities. But if someone were to ask you, what is VISTA's mission? How would you explain it? So when we're asked to describe VISTA, this is our elevator speech, aka VISTA's mission. The VISTA program strengthens organizations that alleviate poverty through the mobilization of volunteers and resources. And in addition to our mission, there are 4 principles that underpin the program. They're ending poverty, empowering communities, building capacity, and creating sustainable solutions. So let's take a look at these 4 principles in more detail.
So the first one is ending poverty. So every VISTA project and every VISTA member aims to end or alleviate poverty, one person, one family, or one block at a time. As you can see, these statistics are pretty sobering, if not shocking. We have 14.5% or 45.3 million people in the U.S. live on less than $11,000 a year. $11,892 per year. And 97.3 million people are low income, which means they're making $47,700 or less for a family of 4. That's not a lot of money when you have people to feed.
Next up, empowering communities. In contrast to parachuting in and doing good things for people, VISTAs live among and involve community members in planning and carrying out projects. This is often facilitated by your sponsor, but strengthening and improving the community is our long-term goal. Through learning about values and beliefs, assumptions, community development principles, and principles of good practice.
Our third goal, is building capacity. VISTA's job is either to increase the size of a project or increase the number of people who are touched by the project, or improve the efficiency of a project so that it takes less to perform the same amount of work, or to improve the impact that the project has on the community. The image on the screen depicts grounded principles of community organization in the center, surrounded by self-determination, fairness, justice, empowerment, and participation.
Last but not least, creating sustainable solutions. Whatever you develop or create, a process, an IT system, materials, and resources, we ask that you develop them in such a way that people will want to be able to use them once you're gone, even after the last VISTA leaves your site. It's important to try and bridge the social, environmental, and economic factors together to create bearable, equitable, viable, and sustainable solutions.
So those four principles kind of guide community development for us, the VISTA program. Community work requires coordination, even collaboration, and working together towards long-range goals. So as you think about the principles we just covered, which one resonates with you, and maybe why does it resonate? You can see our chat box is open, so that's our question. Which one of the key principles resonates with you? So go ahead and type your answer in the chat box, and we'll see those and read a few of them out loud. Maybe it's ending poverty. In the chat, a lot of you said that you wanted to help bring people out of poverty in community. Maybe it's empowering your community. Maybe that's a passion of yours, working with community stakeholders to identify their needs and putting those needs into action with the help of supporting your community. Perhaps capacity building is something that you were made to do. That's what you were born to do. Maybe you see a project and can identify a plan to increase their effectiveness and engage more individuals. Possibly sustainability. Maybe that's something that drew you to your VISTA position. Maybe you have an eye for processes and developing them in such a way that can be used when you leave. So what do we see in here?
I see a lot of empowering the community.
It says, Jessica says, helping people help themselves. Yeah, that's a really big part of the VISTA program. Living in a military community is often difficult to form a community when we all know we'll be moving soon. So working to develop community ties is important. I've never thought about that, and I guess I see how that could be a challenge when everyone's like, oh, I don't need to put down any roots here because I'm going to be leaving in 2 months anyway. How do you form a community when people are so transient? Andy, see any other ones in there?
Yeah, creating sustainable solutions and empowering communities. Sustainable solutions that continue to do good in communities even after VISTAs are gone.
I see a lot of creating sustainable solutions and empowering the community. Let's see, empowering communities so that people have the resources they need to be healthy and succeed.
It is so important that we strengthen the communities we work in so they're not dependent on the nonprofit complex for strength. I'd like to see them independent and strong.
Yeah, I think Sarah Kang hit on something really important here. She says, I think that creating sustainable solutions is relevant to the other three key principles, and I agree with you. I think it's in order to empower your community, to build that capacity, and to end poverty. You need to have products and ideas that are sustainable that do keep going after you're gone. Excellent point.
Mm-hmm. All of these are really good. But no matter which principle you have the most connection with, your work as a VISTA will address all of these principles during your VISTA year. Progress in this type of work is slow and incremental, and it's important to know that our work isn't just about fixing stuff. It's about sharing perspectives and skills. And while the results of your work as a VISTA may not be apparent immediately and may not happen overnight, which at times may be a little frustrating, once you step back, you'll be able to see the larger changes that have resulted from your work. A key component that informs the work that you will be doing at this VISTA is the VISTA assignment description, also known as your VAD. But how is your VAD developed? When a project wants to request VISTA resources, they submit a project application. And this application is developed between your sponsor, community representatives, and VISTA program representatives. In the application, the project describes the poverty-related need in the community, which relates to the VISTA mission and outlines how VISTA resources, aka VISTA members like yourself, would address this need through activities and other outputs. The poverty-related mission of VISTA and the needs identified by the community to come together to create the project goal. And then projects are typically 3 years, and you may be the first, second, or last VISTA at your project. From the project goal, your VAD is created, and we and your sponsor use the VAD to account for your work and measure the organization's progress towards its goals. And like a work plan, it's also important to your supervisor to recruit, support, and coach you throughout your year. We recommend that you ask your supervisor for a copy of the project application. This will allow you to get a deeper look at what the community identified as its needs and hopes, and to better understand your VAD in the context of your overall project goal.
Yeah, so hopefully everyone has seen their VAD. They know what we're talking about. They have, your supervisor has provided that for you. If they haven't, after this webinar, go ask them for that so that you can have that conversation. So what exactly should your VAD include, and what does that all mean? So all VADs include the following 3 elements. First, a project goal, which, as we said in the previous slide, is usually derived from the goal statement in the project's application. The goal should reflect the poverty mission of the project, as well as the activities that clearly show how you, the VISTA member, will build capacity at the organization or in your community. The second part of that is the objective. This is going to describe what you'll achieve by the end of your service year. The objective should form a bridge between the project goal and your activities. So the goal of the project is this, the things that you do are this, and they are going to help you accomplish your objectives. The third part of that is member activities. Now this delineates specifically what you will be doing. Those activities are designed to add up to the objective and the objectives to the goal. By accomplishing the activities in your VAD, you help meet your organization's performance objectives, which contribute to meeting a community need. Now, each of you has your own VAD, no matter how many of you are serving in the project. Now, you may be the first, the second, or the third VISTA, as we said, in many years to serve, to serve at your organization, or you may be alone or serving with other VISTAs. In either case, the application and your VAD are your blueprints for the year. So we're going to focus on them for the next week or so. You'll have a fieldwork assignment related to your VAD that'll be due, I believe, this Sunday. A worksheet will help you tease out the VAD's various elements and will help you use it effectively. The fieldwork includes you and your supervisor, so you'll have some guidance from the start.
So we said that the VAD accounts for your work, so let's take a look at some of the things VISTAs have accomplished recently. So you'll have a sense of what you might be doing and what you'll be contributing to. And these are the measurable, not the intangibles, which are often most interesting. In 2015, VISTAs built the capacity of more than 3,000 nonprofits and public agencies. They secured $222 million in cash and in-kind donations for those sponsors, which is more than twice what Congress has given AmeriCorps VISTA to run the entire program. They recruited, trained, and assigned 1.2 million community volunteers, and that means that for every VISTA serving in 2015, he or she brought in another 154 more volunteers to serve their clients directly. And just one more stat, the National Center for Children in Poverty estimates 16 million children in the United States, about 1 in 5, lives below the poverty line, and VISTAs made it possible for their sponsors to serve 2.4 million of those children in after-school programs, tutoring, and assistance in food security.
Thanks for sharing those stats, Ann.
Anytime.
So we have another chat question for you. The impact you make this year depends really on you, and it also depends on your community, your VISTA project, and honestly, sometimes on just good luck. As you think about this question, type your answer in the chat panel so that everyone will know and learn. What impact do you hope to make as a VISTA? And by impact, what we mean is, what will be the end result of your VISTA project? You know, what will happen as a consequence of your success? So type that into the chat panel. You know, we want to know, what does success look like in your project? And if you don't know yet, that's okay. I understand that it's your first day of service. So maybe you don't know yet, but if you do know, please let us know in the chat box. So we don't really want to know what your activities are going to be, but more or less, you know, what's the outcome of all the work that you're going to be doing this year. For example, a sustainable volunteer program for your organization. Maybe a coalition of community groups working together more effectively as a result of your effort. You know, some VISTAs produce new programming to serve the needs of their community. Others leave their organizations with a sustainable future because of funding that they generated. So what are we seeing in here? I see, ooh, thanks guys for responding.
Deanna said that her site will have a community garden that can be run with volunteers from the community, and that was very similar to the project I did at the VISTA.
Nice. So yeah, so if you need any help with that, reach out, and girl, she can give you some tips and tricks on that community garden.
Definitely.
What do we got? So it says projects related to providing housing, so that projects related to providing housing will have more funds to the systems I create. Great, Kimberly, and see, that goes back to that sort of like sustainability piece, where it's like, yeah, so now all of these organizations whose mission it is to provide housing, now they're going to get more money to continue the work that they do because of the work that you do. Love that. Sabrina says, houses will be repaired, rehabbed, and or built for families in need. Sabrina, it sounds like you may be working with Habitat for Humanity, but I don't know.
Vikram says that refugees in Utah will be empowered with using technology to find better jobs, navigate government, and improve education.
Love that. I like teaching people how to use computers. It's just like one thing that's really fun for me. So way to go, Vikram. I hope that goes well for you. I'm sure you're going to do great. It says, all veterans in Front Range campus moving to four-year schools. All veterans feeling more comfortable on the campus and seeking help through the VA, and others have resources if need be. I like that. So it sounds like you're going to be developing resources for veterans, Cody, who want to go on to four-year university to get comfortable on campus. I know that's a challenge. And I've had friends, you know, who have talked about that and said, yeah, like after coming back from the military, it's like, I don't know if I really like want to, like, I don't want to like live in dorms, you know, and like go, you know, and just like be on a campus, you know, all the time. I've done things already. It's kind of hard to get back into like the school mindset, I think.
Right.
The song says data management. Let's see. These are really great. Like I love reading this because I'm just always really curious about like what exactly our members are doing. Right. There's 6,000 of you all, so it's hard to know what every single person is doing. All right, cool. So thanks guys for that. Thanks for responding. We have another question coming up, I think.
Yep. So since we're on a webinar, let's take advantage of one of the other features available to us. So we'd like to hear from you again. On the right of your screen is a poll about what you think VISTAs need to know. So please take a moment to answer this question. What do you think is the most important thing to know well at the beginning of VISTA service? A, the VISTA program, things like its mission, benefits, what's prohibited. B, the community you'll be serving. Is it important to have lived in the community for some time before serving? C, the organization where you'll be serving. Is it important to have volunteered or worked at the organization before or know its inner workings? D, the specific skills for your VAD. How important is it to have done similar work? Or E, yourself, your values, strengths, weaknesses, must-have. Once you've selected your answer, be sure to click the Submit button.
Yeah, so this takes about 20 seconds to calculate. But let's see, Anne, which one do you think is the most important to know?
I think that our members are going to choose E today.
yourself.
Yourself.
You know, that's usually my answer too, I think it's really important to know yourself. Know what you're capable of, know where your skills lie, know where you could improve,
right.
know what you need to do better in order to better serve your community. But I also see a lot of value and importance in knowing the community that you're going to be serving.
That's true.
I'd be really curious, and I think we find out later on how many of you are new to the community that you're serving. But yeah, I would think that it's like, I don't know, it's really important to know know the demographic, know where the meeting spots are, know who you should be talking to in the community to get things done, who are the people in your community who bring people together. I think it's really important. Elizabeth said, yourself. She also says yourself in the chat. It's like on an airplane when, what does it say? It's like on an airplane when you lose cabin pressure and you have to help yourself first. That always makes me laugh when they tell me on the plane. They're like, make sure you save yourself and then save other people. So what are our poll results? It looks like...
Looks pretty even. Most people said yourself, but coming up close second, the community, and then the specific skills for your VAD, and then the organization.
Well, you know, all these answers are correct. I don't think there is one that is the most important to know. I think it really varies and depends on where you're serving and your personal situation. But hopefully by the end of your PSO Blend, by the end of this 3 weeks that we have together, you're going to get to know all of them a little bit better, and it's going to help you, be the best you that you can be on your VISTA project.
Yep. And so before we move on, let's quickly review what we've just covered. So we looked briefly at the history of VISTA and how it now relates to other national service programs. And then we dove into the VISTA mission and its key principles and discussed how they relate to your VISTA assignment, description, or VAD. And finally, we shared with you some of the impact VISTA members have had in the past year.
Whew.
I'm still bugging over the $225 million and how that's double what Congress gives VISTA.
I know. It's so impressive. It's so impressive. Drive that point home, We need that money. We need funding. All right, so we're going to switch. Hey, Rose. Rose says, I'm here. Hey, Rose. Nice to have you. Glad you made it. All right, so we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about PSO Blend. It's going to get a little meta because you're on the PSO Blend, your webinar right now. We're going to talk about it and talk about what it is and how to best be successful. So VISTA's pre-service orientation, or PSO, like any orientation, is designed to provide you with fundamental information and resources to start you off well. You're in an orientation whose 3-week curriculum combines online tutorials and webinars with in-person training and action learning at your VISTA site. In other words, this is a blend of components that follow along that training spectrum, hence the title PSO Blend. Technically, the PSO Blend began with all those self-directed courses you took earlier on the VISTA campus. If you remember that Terms and Conditions course, the Benefits course, the VISTA Mission History, all those things that you took, that's really kind of technically when you began. But this webinar is the kickoff to a facilitated 3-week curriculum. So we're going to be hanging out for 3 weeks with various assignments due throughout those 3 weeks. So the PSO Blend is a classroom without walls. Action learning rather than classroom learning. And instead of a front-loaded learning program, the PSO Blend gives you the opportunity to apply what you're learning while you're doing it. Like service learning, our aim is to create time for you to reflect on what you're doing.
But let's be honest, pausing to reflect often runs counter to our culture. I mean, we almost all pride ourselves on our multitasking abilities. That's definitely on my resume. In fact, you're probably doing it now, texting, snacking, half listening. So the thoughts of stopping our activity for an hour or so to identify what we value and what lesson we will carry with us can be out of character. And if you add our need for speed to this process, then we could really push your buttons.
So on the positive side, you're already at your site and can bring real issues to your training. I think most of you are at your site. I know one person whose site is flooded and they couldn't be there today, so I hope that that clears up and that you're able to join everyone else. But We're glad that you're on site. So you can also go to your supervisor and get project-level information and answers in real time. So if you need anything throughout this whole process, please go to your supervisor and say, hey, I'm having issues with this, I'm having trouble with this. Reach out to me. I know I've sent every single person on this call at least one email. So you can find my email address, my contact information. Give me a call, shoot me an email if you're having any issues, because we want to make sure that you guys are supported throughout your PSO Blend.
Your role is pretty simple in PSO, but not necessarily easy. We want you to participate with an open mind and heart. Navigating the system and showing up is step one. Being authentic and communicating with the intent of being influenced as well as supportive is the second step. And like we said before, patience and reflection is not one of our cultural strong points, but they're essential to your success in the blend and in your service. So please take time to learn about your assignment, the VAD, and plan your next steps. Draw on your facilitators in your class, in addition to your supervisor and colleagues at the site.
Totally. And, and along with being mindful and planful, please meet the deadlines. I can't really stress that enough. Please meet those deadlines because if you don't meet the deadlines and you start getting emails from me and then it turns into like a whole thing, and let's just avoid all of that. All of your assignments, deadlines, and sessions are outlined in the Guide to Entering VISTA Service that you received prior to starting service, as well as in your online classroom. So you can find all those deadlines and what to do exactly in both platforms, in your online classroom and in that guide that we emailed you. We'll also review them in just a second, so you'll get it a third time. We recommend that you mark these on your calendar and set a reminder for yourself to ensure that you meet these deadlines. Failure to complete the work associated with the PSO Blend will result in your removal from service, and we don't want to do that. We definitely don't want anyone to be removed from service because they didn't turn in an assignment. We know you'll be doing a lot to help your communities out of poverty and that they need your assistance in order to achieve their goals. So don't let missing a PSO Blend webinar cause you to have to leave your community without a VISTA member. Just a note about onboarding forms and coursework. Everything needs to be done by close of business today. It should all be done by now, but if not, you have until midnight tonight to complete those. Otherwise, we cannot enter you into service and begin paying you your living allowance. So one more time, in just a different way, if those forms online aren't complete, if we don't have your terms and conditions, we don't have your direct deposit information, all those things, if we don't have that, we can't start paying you. And we definitely want to pay you so that you can continue your service and the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm. So now that you know more about what PSO Blend is and what is expected of you, let's take a look at the PSO Blend calendar so that you can see what's coming up in the next couple of weeks.
All right, and so let's do that. So last week, you completed your onboarding forms in my.americorps.gov and the tutorials on the VISTA campus. We've built a curriculum based on your having carefully reviewed those tutorials. So we don't want to waste your time by reviewing for you what we've already asked you to review. We don't want any of you to be thrown out of the program because you didn't understand the rules, or that next April you're facing state taxes because you didn't understand the tax implications of your benefits. So we will hold you responsible for having read and accepted the terms and for having read and accepted the terms, benefits, and conditions of your service. If there are aspects to your service that you do not understand, the next few days is the time to raise those questions. Again, we're always here for you. If you have any questions, just reach out to someone and we'll answer anything that you've got. Talk to your supervisor about your project assignment, or you can call the VISTA hotline for support about policy and your benefits. So that being said, on Wednesday, we'll talk about the more complicated issues around your benefits, such as living allowance, health care, and the education award, so you make sure that you're there on Wednesday. But we'll talk about it kind of briefly because we do have all that information available on the VISTA campus. At that point, you'll be able to, we'll point you to webinars in our regular professional development series and let you know about where to find support and answers to your questions about benefits.
So today marks the beginning of the first week of your PSO Blend and the first day of service. Woo! And look, here we are on that webinar. Towards the end of this webinar, we will administer the oath of service, and that will be your official entrance into VISTA. You should have been given the oath of service form by your supervisor today to sign and return. If you haven't, we will post a link in the chat later in a little bit where you can find the oath and print it out. Your supervisor will also give you 2 fingerprint cards with instructions. The oath needs to be signed and returned today, and the fingerprints need to be completed and returned within 30 days, but the sooner the better. Fingerprints are needed, as you know, to conduct a criminal background check.
Yeah. So I do want to reiterate, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A panel on our webinar screen, just because we do lose them in the chat. But I did see one from Scott that I think is applicable to everyone. Scott says, is there a way to make sure you have everything done? Scott, you're able to give the VMSU a call. You can refer to that last email I think that I sent you last week that says, you know, all the forms, and then it'll say completed next to it, or it says incomplete if something was incomplete. So you can check that out. If all those are complete, then you're good to go. You made it to this webinar, you clearly read that email, and you did a good job, and we got you here. But if you are still feeling any sort of anxiety about completing all the forms, you can give us a call at the VMSU or just shoot us an email back, and we'll be able to let you know. So also during this week, your supervisor will provide you with an on-site orientation and training. This training will introduce you to the organization and the community that you're serving and discuss your VISTA assignment, which is, again, essentially your job description. And while the due date for your first fieldwork assignments isn't until Sunday, the 7th, May 7th, you'll need to start these assignments prior to Sunday in order to ensure that all the elements are completed. So the assignments due on Sunday are the comprehension check quiz. This tests your knowledge on what you've learned in your pre-work and on this webinar. You'll need to do the minute intro, which is an activity that guides you in creating a very short video to introduce yourself and your VISTA role to others. There's the VISTA assignment worksheet, which helps you unpack your VISTA assignment description, or your VAD, so that you can better understand your role. And finally, how poverty is measured, which is just a video that explains how the official poverty rate is determined.
Just to take a quick minute, let's discuss the VAD worksheet assignment. The VAD, as we've said, is your roadmap to your VISTA year and identifying how your project's goals and your VAD objectives and activities relate to the overall project goal, as well as the mission of VISTA, and it's key to your success. We recommend that you download this worksheet as soon as you get that login instructions email for your classroom, which should be coming after this webinar, and work with your VISTA supervisor to complete the worksheet. Yeah,
that's that worksheet. Let's see, your second week of PSO Blend starts with the submission of the assignments that we just discussed. On Wednesday, you'll have your first virtual meetup. Virtual meetups are made up of you and about 30 of your peers and a facilitator. You'll explore what you're learning about your organization and your community and take a close look at your VISTA assignment and the VAD worksheet assignment that you completed. In addition to the meetup, you'll develop a community profile, which is a fascinating process that you can use in guiding your work. You'll also take the 13 lessons about poverty as a way to integrate you into the heart of VISTA, which is poverty, which will be due on Sunday, March 14th. May 14th, my bad.
And then on your third week of PSO Blend, it starts with the submission of assignments that we just discussed. In week 3, you will again gather and reconnect with your online classmates in a virtual meetup. And then on that Friday, you'll submit fieldwork pertaining to your on-site orientation and training, which is given by your supervisor to help you understand your community and your VAD and service site a little bit more. And then you're finished with PSO Blend. Woo! So on a technical level, which can be challenging, just be aware that we're using 3 systems or platforms to conduct the PSO Blend. One is the VISTA Campus, which you used for the online tutorials. Think back to the terms and conditions course that you did. The other one is WebEx, which is what you're in now for the live webinar. So you guys are currently in WebEx, so if you made it here, you're good with that one. And the third is the online classroom, which the address for which you can find on the screen, vistaclassroom.educationnorthwest.org. But you'll visit that later. You'll receive an email with login instructions after this presentation. So the technology isn't necessarily hard, but we want you to be aware that there are these 3 systems, each that have their own web address, and that you may have to go into for different things. All right, the online classroom. As we mentioned, you're going to be part of a small group of VISTAs in a facilitated online class, and you'll submit your fieldwork assignments and join your virtual meetups in this classroom. The online class is a learning environment with an opportunity to share and develop your ideas and experience with a facilitator in a small group through regularly scheduled virtual meetups and class forums. Developing a connection with the VISTA community is a challenge in a virtual environment, and connecting and feeling supported by people involved in work like yourself demands more of you when communicating from a distance. The classroom with its meetups and forums is the first step in connecting.
Totally. So you want to know how to log into the classroom. I'm very happy that you asked. So right after this webinar, you'll receive an email with the step-by-step instructions for logging into the online classroom. Now remember, the classroom site is not the VISTA campus. I know that's a little confusing, like VISTA campus, you're thinking classroom, just like don't think that. And remember that the website for that is vistaclassroom.educationnorthwest.org. That's where you're going to go. That's where your actual classroom is. But again, that's going to be in your email. The email will be sent to the address in your my.americorps.gov account, so please look for it and take a minute to log in today. It's really important that you log in today just so we can make sure that there's no issues, no problems there. Once you get that email, it's going to take you about 5 minutes. Just go ahead and get logged in just so we can make sure that you're good to go. Messages from your facilitator and VISTA colleagues and your coursework are all located on that site. So you have to log in there. There's no way around it. But again, the sooner the better. Get in there, start reading messages, start posting to your fellow VISTAs, take a look at the calendar, take a look at your coursework, all that good stuff. If you have any trouble logging in after receiving the instructions, we are always here to help you. Just email vistacourses@educationnorthwest.org so you can see that on the screen. That email address will also be included in the email that you're going to receive, so you'll have it all over the place. Just if you have any issues with your online classroom, email vistacourses@educationnorthwest.org.
And just to echo what Calvin said, if you need any support during your PSO Blend, please email vistacourses@educationnorthwest.org. And if you have trouble with logging into your online classroom, you can also send other technical questions to this address, or better yet, once you're logged in, post to the technical questions forum in your online classroom. That way, if the question is one that your classmates also have, they'll be able to see the answer too. Your facilitator is a great person to connect with if you have any questions regarding the curriculum. Your supervisor and VISTA leader, if you have one, are great resources for questions about your project or your VAD.
Well, and everyone has a supervisor, but not everyone will have a leader. Yeah, let me clear that up. If you have one, everyone has a supervisor, but you may not all have a VISTA leader.
True, true. And the National Service Hotline for questions about the VISTA program, policies, benefits, and requirements. And then if none of those are helped, you can always contact your state office.
Totally. And the state office can guide you in the right direction. So there are a few immediate action steps that you'll need to take right after this session. So if you've been tuning out for this whole thing, now is the time to really pay attention because these are the things that will prevent you from being paid and being entered into service. So immediate actions, these are things that need to be done by close of business today. That's today, by 5, whatever time zone you're in. Complete any missing onboarding forms. I think Jake sent out an email this morning. I sent out one last week kind of with reminders of what is missing, what still needs to be done. And if you have any questions about that, you can send me an email, you can contact the VMSU, we can let you know those things. Sorry, VMSU, I should stop using acronyms if we're not explaining them. VMSU is the VISTA Member Support Unit. That is the benefits helpline. If you have anything that is incomplete, please complete it again by COP today. We can't enter you and pay you. Something that is very, very important also, pay attention to this one. If you selected the end-of-service stipend as your end-of-service benefit and you don't know which one you want, please switch over to the Education Award. We didn't touch on this in the webinar, but in the benefits section of the VISTA campus, you should have seen these two topics explained. If you selected the Education Award, you can change it to the end-of-service stipend up to your 10th month of service. So if you selected the Education Award, you have 10 months to change it over to the stipend. However, if you've selected the end-of-service stipend, you can never change it back to the education award. So if you're not sure which one you want, my suggestion, very strong suggestion, is to select the select the education award, because you have 10 months to change over to the stipend, whereas if you have the stipend, you can never change over to the education award. There's no mechanism to do it. We just can't do it. I've gotten a lot of teary phone calls about that one, so I really want to make sure that you got that. You have until close of business today to make that change. So please, please, please make that change. If you're not sure which one you want, select the education award. If you've already, if you've already selected the stipend, you have until 5 o'clock today to make that change. Another thing that needs to be done, log into your online classroom. Again, you're going to receive that email with the instructions, and that's going to come right after this. And finally, get your fingerprint kit and get them done this week if possible. Your supervisor should have your fingerprint kit. If they don't have it, they need to talk to your state office, and they'll get that over to you. The fingerprint kit is going to have 2 fingerprint cards, instructions to complete them, and a return label.
Yep, and just like Calvin said, your supervisor should have fingerprint cards and instructions for you. You are responsible for getting fingerprinted and submitting your fingerprints to VISTA headquarters. The cost of fingerprinting varies, and the VISTA program is providing you with a $25 fingerprint subsidy included in your first living allowance payment. So you don't need to submit receipts to receive the subsidy. You're going to get it automatically. I really recommend that you get fingerprinted as soon as possible. It may take some time to find a printing location, and so, use this time to get them done and plan to get your fingerprints done during the first week of service. You may need to ask your supervisor or do some research to find out where you can get hard copy fingerprints taken. The deadline for you to submit your fingerprints based on your PSO start date of today is listed on the screen, and it is Wednesday, May 31st. Failure to submit your fingerprints within this time frame could result in termination from service. So please don't let that happen. Find out locations that can do hard copy fingerprinting near you and get them done and sent in to us right away. Don't let it happen to you, because it does happen. Get those fingerprints done and get them just turned in by May 31st. We just want to make sure that, that you're safe. So why do you need to get your fingerprints taken? Let's talk about this for a second. We do this to protect the community members and the volunteers that we work with, yourselves included. Now, there's 2 convictions that automatically disqualify a person from VISTA service, and those are any sexual offense or any violence against a minor. There are 2 other conditions that don't necessarily disqualify you but could be an issue, and those are being on probation or parole or facing charges, and the failure to disclose your criminal history. First, you need to get fingerprinted just as we mentioned. Second is that when you applied, we asked if you'd ever been convicted of a crime. Now, you may not have disclosed everything, not just 10 years back, or because you thought a DUI is a minor traffic violation, or you were a minor and it was expunged. If you fail to disclose any conviction, even though you thought it was expunged, fill out the criminal history questionnaire that's included with the fingerprint cards and send it in as instructed. If you have a string of arrests where the charges were dropped, it would be really appreciated if you listed those as well. That's not required, but it is really helpful in our review. Once we get your criminal history back, we match it up against what you disclosed. If everything matches up, you're generally going to be okay. If there are discrepancies, that's when we start having issues. If there is a conviction and you haven't, again, if you haven't disclosed, it is grounds for dismissal. And there's a lot of extensive follow-up that has to happen. Anne does the follow-up on that, so she can vouch and say that it's not super fun for you or us, so please just make sure that you're disclosing things. All right, so now let's discuss the oath of service. This is the fun part. So the oath can be found via the link that's about to be posted in the chat. So we're going to post the link to the oath in the chat. You may have already received it from your supervisor. They may have been ready for you and printed it off and given it to you, but we'll post the link in the chat to that. So you're ready to take the oath of service. Now, to do this, you need this oath form. So I've got a few instructions for filling out the form, and while they may seem obvious, you'd be surprised at some of the things that we get on these forms.
So number one, print your full legal name, which I think you used in your My AmeriCorps application. Give the name of the organization that is sponsoring your VISTA project, likely the organization where you're serving. Put the city and state where you're serving, so that's where do you show up for service every day. Put today's date as the date entered on duty, so that's going to be May 1st, 2017, as your date entered on duty. And then for number 5, it's going to be the name of the CNCF official who is administering the oath which you are about to take. And that's going to be Ann O.T. And you can see Ann's name on the screen. We'll spell it out for you. The name of the person who administered the oath is ANNE O-T-I-H, Ann O-T. So make sure that you do write that on your form. If we get your form back and it doesn't have Ann's name on it, we have to go through this whole thing and send it back to you and say we need Ann's name. It's very technical. This is a very technical and legal document, so it's got to be filled out exactly the way that you see on the screen, but with your information and not Victor Vista's information. But make sure that you're doing that. So don't do anything else, and we'll give you more instructions after you take the oath.
Now that the logistics are out of the way, let's consider the oath that you're about to take, because you shouldn't take it lightly. This is the same oath taken by all federal employees up to and including the Vice President. The President's oath is a little bit different. It includes the phrase, to defend the Constitution of the United States. Defend. This is not a call to arms. For some, in some positions, it may be, but for most of us, defense of the Constitution may just be the opposite of using arms. The Constitution is not an administration, it's not even a flag. Rather, it embodies the principles that elevate us from a loosely organized group on the North American continent to a civil society. We're pledging to defend the document that contains our civil rights. Against all enemies. Enemies. Let us all, as community builders, change agents, and simply as citizens, choose our enemies carefully. More often, an enemy is a reflection of ourselves in a bad light. Build bridges before you make enemies, and we will all profit. In the context of VISTA, of course, the enemy is what? Poverty. Okay, 2 more things about the oath. First, you may replace the word swear with the word affirm if you so choose, and then you may also omit the phrase, so help me God. I want to recognize that since we're all in different locations around the country, scattered in so many sites in so many states, that we don't have the benefit of hearing each other's voices after we recite this. But it's pretty cool to know that you are taking the oath with scores of your fellow VISTAs, or while scores of your fellow VISTAs are doing the same thing at the same time all across America. It may seem awkward to recite the oath aloud when you're alone in a room, but really you're taking the oath for yourself. So do it for you and make it count. Now please raise your right hand and recite the oath aloud with me. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter, so help me God.
Woo! Yay! So now you are officially a VISTA member. Please you, the VISTA member, sign and date the form on the line in the white area only. Do not write anything in the shaded area. Then hand it to your supervisor, as your supervisor will also need to sign the form where it says witness to confirm that you took the oath and that it was administered by a CNCS official, and OT, one of your hosts on this webinar. So once you and your supervisor have signed it, please scan a copy of your oath and email the scanned copy of the oath, not a photograph, so don't take a picture with your phone unless you have that cool scanner app, which is another option. But we need a scanned copy, not a photograph. Send it as an attachment to the VISTA Member Support Unit at vmsu@cns.gov with the subject line oath-first name last name -PSO Blend -5/1/2017. Oh no, I'm sorry guys if that says 3/13/17, please ignore that. I didn't update that one. My bad. We all make mistakes. No one's perfect, and we know this. Yeah, so please write 5117 in the body of that email. Oh, look, they updated it. What?
Yay.
Wow, that's impressive.
That is impressive. So remember, print your full legal name, which you used in your AmeriCorps application. Give the name of the organization that is sponsoring your VISTA project, likely the organization where you're serving. Put the city and state where you are serving. Put today's date as the date entered on duty. List my name, Ann O.T., as the CNCS official who is administrating the oath to you, and have your supervisor sign the witness section of the oath and email a scanned copy of your oath to vmsu@cns.gov with the subject line oath/your name PSO Blend -5/1/2017. This must be done within 48 hours.
And I know we're really harping on this one, but this is really important, and this is, again, this is a very technical, very legal document that is binding and will stop you from being entered into service and being paid if it's not filled out exactly correctly and sent in within the appropriate time frame. So please just make sure you do this. If you don't do anything else today, do all the other stuff I said and do this.
I see what you did
Yeah,
there.
that's a few things. All right, so with that being said, we want to, before we go to our Q&A section, we want to know what you thought. On the right side of your screen, you're going to find a quick poll where you can share your feedback about this webinar. So please take a moment to answer the questions. We really love to be able to improve these webinars and make sure that we're giving you all the information that you need and that you can use. So you're going to find that pop up on the right side of your screen. So we've given you a lot to think about, and now it's time for your questions. The poll will be up on the side of the screen throughout the remainder of the webinar, but we're going to go to your questions. So you can ask a question using the Q&A panel located to the right of your screen. And now I'm going to ask our operator to let us know how to ask questions by phone. Operator?
Thank you. We will now begin the question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1. Unmute your phone and record your name clearly. Your name is required to introduce your question. If you need to withdraw your question, press *2. Again, to ask a question verbally, please press *1. It will take a few moments for the questions to come through. Please stand by.
All right, thank you. So while you're filling that out, I'm going to go to the questions that are in the Q&A box. All right, so let's see. We have a couple in here queued up. So one of them is from Samantha Shukas. She says, if there are multiple VISTAs on one webinar together, how do we let you know who is here properly? Well, we strongly recommend that everyone log in on their own computer. It's a lot easier for us to track your attendance and all that stuff. If you could, please, Samantha, put in the chat who attended with you, or who's in the room with you. Please list down everyone that is attending with you so that I can take that attendance and make sure that I have them as counted. If they're not counted, if you don't put them in there, then I have to send them an email that with like makeup work and all that good stuff. So just go ahead and put it in the chat. We'll pull it out of there. But for future reference, please try to join on your own computer. Gina Salaki is with you. Cool, thank you for that. Next question is, what if we're not with our supervisor today and they cannot sign our oath today? So you can have another witness, such as a coworker, sign your oath. I'm hoping that you're at your site and your supervisor's in there rather than the other way around. But you can have a coworker sign your oath. Just make sure that you do get it submitted. I think someone else in the Q&A asked a similar question. What if we're not with our supervisor today and they cannot sign? Oh, wait, where'd it go? I lost that. Someone says, I'm not at my site yet and it won't be for another week. Can a family member be the witness? Beata, I'm a little concerned that you're not at your site and won't be for another week because today is your first day of work. I'll follow up with you offline on that one. I hesitate in saying yes, a family member can be the witness, but they can be. Just make sure that you get it sent in within 48 hours, and I'll follow up with you offline on that one. All right, so we got another question that says, can we submit our assignments early? From Kevin Favreau. Can we submit our assignments early? Kevin, yes, you can submit them early in the online classroom, but just because you've submitted your assignments, you still have to attend the virtual meetups and attend all webinars. So just because you submit all the assignments does not mean you are done. You're with us this week on Wednesday, and then next week in your virtual meetup on Wednesday, and then the week after on Wednesday. So yeah, you can submit them, but you still have to do all the other stuff that goes along with it. Let's see, someone asked, how does state tax work? So we'll cover this on Wednesday, but very briefly, the VISTA program does not deduct state taxes, but you still are responsible for state taxes come tax season. So visit your state tax website to get an idea about what your taxes look like personally. You can give them a call and say, hey, this is what I'm looking at, this is what I'm going to be making, can you give me some advice? There's a chance that you may not have to pay any taxes because your income's low. Maybe you live in a state that doesn't have an income tax and you don't have to pay anything, but it's sort of incumbent on you to figure out your state taxes.
Rose asks, I did the fingerprint, but there was no disclosure form. If you didn't receive a guidance in your fingerprint kit, you can send us an email at vistafingerprint@cns.gov. vistafingerprint@cns.gov. You can email us a disclosure, or you can just send us an email, and then we will send you a disclosure form.
Denise Goshton, that's another one. That's who else participated. Denise Gorston. All right. All right, so someone says, so sorry if this is an obvious question, but how do we know who our VISTA supervisor is? Is this individual the same as our immediate supervisor at our site? Yes, it is. Your VISTA supervisor is your immediate supervisor. If you have any questions about who that is, follow up with someone at your project, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. Each one of you has a person assigned to you at your project. Like, you may not be like their only subordinate, but they're your supervisor. Let's see. I've got another question. Says, hey, I do not have coworkers and I cannot get to the state office due to flooding. What is Plan B? Oh, Carolyn, I was fully expecting you. You're the one that's flooded. I think you're going to be at your site tomorrow, Carolyn, and then someone from the state office is going to call and swear you in, and then you'll sign it and just submit your oath tomorrow. I've talked to your supervisor already. They're fully aware, so once you go in tomorrow, they'll have instructions, and you'll be good to go. Let's see. Do we have any questions on the phone?
Yes, we do. Our first question comes from somebody who wishes to be anonymous. Your line is open. All righty.
Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
So, when I was 15, I fought with my sister, and I was arrested for not going to court, and it was expunged. Like, when I was 15, it was expunged, and I did not put that on the application because I didn't think it was a big deal. Am I going to get in trouble for that?
There's a good chance that won't affect your service, but just make sure that when you do get that disclosure form, or if you don't have it, we can send you one, that you do fill it out and submit it with your fingerprints, or just send that over to us. We just need it so that if it does come up, when we do run your fingerprints, that it matches, that we have something to match it up against.
Like, I've done fingerprints before, and it never really come up. It has never been a problem.
Sure. If that's hard, if you don't want to disclose it on your form, you be aware that you definitely don't. You don't have to. But if it does come up whenever we do run your fingerprints, we'll have to reach back out to you and ask for documentation and all that good stuff. So it's a good idea to disclose beforehand and up front, just so that if it doesn't come up, then we don't mention it and we don't do anything with that information. But if it does come up, we have something we can match it up against.
Okay, so if I do the disclosure form, will I still need to have more paperwork?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
If you would like to ask a question, please press *1 on your phone and record your name. Our next question comes from Letitia. Letitia, your line is open.
Hi.
Hi.
I just had a question. Well, a lot of the links that you mentioned in this webinar, will it be posted on the email that you're sending?
Yeah, so the links to the classroom, you're going to get an email after this is over with instructions to log into the classroom. So that's going to have the web address for the classroom. It's going to have the email address for any technical assistance. So if you have issues logging in, that'll be there. I'm trying to think of what other links there may be. The VISTA campus, which you should already be familiar with, that's one of those sites that we use. And then just the myamericorps.gov website is the other one that we use. And if I'm not mistaken, I think those are the only ones that we've used. If you need the oath form, if you need a copy of the oath form, that's going to be in the chat. But you can just go to the VISTA campus and search for oath form, and you'll find it. It's very easy to find.
Okay, great. And I forgot to write it, or I want to make sure that I wrote it correctly. Where do I send the oath form? Like to you guys directly?
Yeah, so you're going to email it. So you're going to scan it and email it to vmsu@cns.gov. I'll ask someone to type that into the chat box for us, but if you look in the chat box, that email address will pop up. But it's vmsu@cns.gov. So once you fill it out completely, scan it and email it to that address.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Again, as a reminder, please press *1 on your phone and record your name if you would like to ask a question. Our next question does come from the anonymous caller again. One moment.
All right. Hello.
Your line is open.
How do I know when I'm done with everything? Because I'm pretty sure I've done everything, but I keep receiving emails reminding me to finish things on my class in the classroom.
That's a little trickier to answer. How about this? I will follow up with you directly after this webinar is over. Sound good?
Great, thanks.
You're very welcome.
Again, as a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, please press *1 on your phone, record your name. One moment.
All right, cool. So we have a few more questions in the Q&A. Someone says, Cole says, I'm uninsured. How long before I need to have health insurance? Are all benefits null and void without being insured? This is an excellent question, Cole. We are going to dive into this really deeply on Wednesday, but essentially you have, your VISTA service qualifies you for a special enrollment period, so you have to sign up for one of the two VISTA health benefits that we'll talk about on Wednesday, and you have 30 days to do that, I believe, or 60. Ooh, Cole, I'm sorry. I can't remember off the top of my head if it's 30 or 60. But we'll tell you on Wednesday a definite answer. So if you can hold off for 2 days, we'll give you that information. Sorry about that. So Garima says, can I submit my oath tomorrow as I have to leave my office site early today? Me and my supervisor were not aware of this. I guess, and I hope you were not aware of this, maybe means that you were not aware that you had to submit an oath form. Hopefully you can get that done really quickly. I mean, preferably we'd like to have it today. If you can't do it, if you can't print it off, sign it, and email it today, then yes, you can send it tomorrow.
Carrie asks, if I have 3 other VISTA members here with me as well, can we all send all 4 of our fingerprint results together in one package, or should they be separate? You can send all of your completed fingerprint kits in one package.
Awesome. Carrie, I hope that all of you are logged in separately. If you're not logged in separately, please put your names in the chat so that I can account for all 4 of you. Thanks. And then, let's see. Kelly says, we are all getting a lot of emails. I missed the pre-PSO online training with the VISTA Campus. Campus can't find the email right now. Is it an issue if I log on and complete that today? Kelly, so sorry that you are getting a lot of emails. Yes, you can log in today and complete those online forms. Please try to get those done, by close of business today. Cody says, is probation and being a VISTA a problem? It is, Cody, just because we don't know the fate of your sort of life, and you don't either. If you're on probation, so something could very easily happen where you are no longer able to serve. We'll follow up with us outside of this webinar, and we can give you more details about that.
Actually, Cody, I remember your name. You're good to go.
Ah, look at that. I got you. Cody, you're good to go. So there you go, buddy. Let's see. Jessica Hughes is in a hurry to get out of here. She says, is it required to stay for all these questions? Yes, it is, because we're almost done, so just stick with us a little bit longer. And there's probably something on here that you don't know the answer to, so you don't want to miss anything. All right, so I'm going to do one last check on the phone. Do we have any other questions on the phone?
We show no further questions at this time.
All righty, thank you. Let's see. Emma Kelly, we have one more question. Emma Kelly, on the My AmeriCorps site, my service term and site location history lists different locations for the same year of service. Which should I list on my oath form? If location, you're talking city and state, you're going to do the place that, like the city and state that you report to that you're serving in every day. I would say for your place of service, use what you most commonly use. That's, like, we get this question a lot because what happens is you have the project that you're actually working for, which is where you report to every day, and then you'll have something that's called an intermediary, which is a sort of organization that manages your project. So wherever you report to every day, that's the organization that you want to put on your form. All right, so that being said, we are going to wrap up for Jessica Hughes. I'm going to get everyone out of here. So thank you all so much for your participation today. I want to again welcome you to VISTA, wish you much success, and leave you with this quote from Lyndon Johnson. On your idealism and on much of your success rests much of our hope and for the final elimination of poverty in our American life. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you for being here. Please reach out if we can help you in any way. If you need any sort of assistance, all you got to do is let us know and we'll help you. And we will see you on Wednesday.
See you.